2023 was a dismal year for movies and movie fans, and 24 is not shaping up to be much better. We've got the odd spot of color here and there, but the movie landscape is mostly dull, lifeless gray. There are many movies that are easy to complain about, but the question is, why? Why are these movies not motivating you to the theater? Why are they not giving you that feeling? Why is it so often that the best praise we can offer is,
"Wow, that wasn't terrible"?
What is making these productions so bad? There are many reasons, but today I want to focus on a word I use quite a bit in my videos, and that is theme. It occurred to me that we might not all have a common definition, or worse, sometimes it's one of those words where we seem to be using it correctly in context, but we can't quite put a finger on the meaning or give examples. What you can put a finger on is that like button to help this video. Cut! That's a wrap!
In the heat of battle, he don't miss. No.
So let's look at what a movie theme is and explain how most movies these days don't have one. And maybe even pepper in a few positive examples, just for contrast, for the fun of it. So what is a theme? In short, it's a set of ideas or messages or concepts that the movie is trying to explore. When done well, this central idea permeates the entire movie without being overly obvious, and that is the key. Sometimes a movie's theme may as well be its title because it's beating you over the head with it. Other times, the theme turns into a message, or we sometimes call it the message. And it's not an exploration of a theme from different angles, it's a straight up op-ed, yelling its viewpoint at you and demanding that you accept it. Often, this is so much the main focus of the creator that they forget to weave in, story or character or anything. Honestly, it's just that bludgeon. Bang! Bang, bang, bang!
Well, there wasn't a sickle, but there was a hammer.
Don't Worry, Darling is a prime example of this. It was determined to be this feminist rallying cry, but it forgot to make the movie make sense. And the theme doesn't have to be one you agree with. It's all about the execution. Lots of conservative guys enjoy The Boys, even though it is exploring the negative sides of nationalism, religion, and masculinity. What's important is that it's a well-done show. A quality theme is usually, but not necessarily always, some kind of universal human experience or ideal. An excellent example of this is Shrek. Now look, I know DreamWorks has had some duds, but when they hit hard. Shrek explores a few themes, mostly around appearances and judgments, both internal and external. Sometimes they came right out and said it.
Лук многослойен. Я тоже. Слой за слоем. Ты в шок?
Other times, they showed it to you with characters not being what they seem, or having to learn to accept themselves despite what others thought of them. The movie was a fun comedy first, and the exploration of the themes added depth. That's why this movie is a freaking classic. Even its villain was a part of its exploration. Lord Farquaad is small, literally and figuratively. Just like Swit's Lilliputians, Farquaad symbolizes the darker sides of the theme. He is shallow, he has no depth, he's selfish and judgmental. He thinks stuff and a beautiful princess will add to himself. He is a huge loser who places value in all the wrong areas.
Любопытно, какие у него комплексы.
Go back and watch Shrek sometime and see how these ideas of prejudice, self-worth, and not judging a book by its cover are all through this movie, and not in a neon sign distracting kind of way. Those themes are as much a part of that movie as Shrek, Donkey, or Fiona. And everyone can find ideas to connect with in that movie. Maybe we have been judged unfairly or been the one judging. Maybe we don't feel seen. Maybe we've built up emotional walls to keep people out. Shrek is built around ideas that everyone over the age of 2 can relate to, and that's why this kids movie is still relevant and enjoyable for everyone of all ages. It's an excellent movie. But modern movies have nothing to connect to. That's why you so often feel nothing when you're watching them. You watch a movie and you're just like, yep, I watched a movie.
It was better than decent, it just wasn't great. It was fine. If it were a meal, it would be like, oh, that's done.
Sometimes the people making them are self-aware enough to see their own cinematic ineptitude, so they attempt to force some emotion in. Right here is bestest boy Hopper from Wheel of Time. They made sure to tell you he's the best. Then killed him! You feel sad because a pet died, but there is no character to connect with that you feel this through. So it's empty and simply makes you hate the show for trying to manipulate you so obviously. This is why pacing is a big complaint in modern movies. It's a symptom of no theme. There is no connection between you and what is happening on screen, so you feel bored. Or everything is happening all at once because the characters themselves have no theme, so they don't act in a consistent way from scene to scene. They merely say and do whatever the script requires to get to the next scene and string some semblance of a plot together. That's why we get exposition dumps and sudden action and plot surges, because the lack of a cohesive idea for the movie prevents the writers from putting together natural sequences and dialogue. A recent example of poor pace due to lack of theme is Netflix's Damsel. This one has been torn to ribbons online, and deservedly so.
To shreds, you say?
This is a great negative example of a movie that is pure plot and nothing else. Its number one goal was to be edgy and subvert tropes. Oh, what's that? Damsels usually get rescued? Ah! Not in this one!
There are many stories of chivalry, where the heroic knight saves the damsel in distress. This is not one of them.
That is actually how the movie opens. I feel like you wouldn't believe me if I didn't play it for you. I mean, I wouldn't have believed it. Damsel attempts to be so clever, and we're left with an empty husk of a movie with nothing for us, the audience, to connect with. Little in the movie makes much sense. And at one point, the main character needs to know something to move the plot, so she just has a vision and gets the information. They tried to play it like she was putting together some pieces, but it was an info dump vision, okay? Which seems to be a trend right now. If I had a nickel for every plot device info dump vision I'd seen in a movie this year,
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
The biggest issue with that movie was the need for subverting tropes that have already been subverted so much that at this point, a remake of Princess Bride would feel like a fresh, original masterpiece. See the earlier example of Shrek if you want clever subversion. But the second biggest issue is that there is no theme. That is why the pace is terrible, and half of the movie is Elodie trying to escape the cave because the movie has zero ideas to look at, so they just had to stuff it with empty action and long survival scenes. From the title and the descriptions, you might think that this is a feminist film, but honestly, I don't even think it qualifies as that. I mean, sure, the writer clearly thought he was going to get some high fives from the identity junkies in Hollywood for having the women save themselves and the guys all die because they're all evil, but his heart didn't seem to be in it. To me, Damsel doesn't feel like a feminist movie so much as a movie made by a guy calling himself feminist because he wants to get laid.
So do you come to these kind of things often, or?
Are you hitting on me at an abortion rally?
The movie also contradicts itself on that point. The queen of the land is evil. Main character Elodie turns into a freaking war criminal the second she gets control of a superior weapon in the form of a dragon. The female dragon sadistically stalks and murders what it believes are daughters of the kingdom, and has been doing this for centuries. So at first, you would understandably believe this to be yet another Hollywood strong female girl boss, all that movie, but that is honestly giving it too much credit, because it doesn't even have enough substance or grit to stick with and explore that theme. It has no theme at all. There is nothing to connect you to this movie emotionally, nothing interesting that it's trying to explore, and that's why it sucks.
And so for those reasons, I'm out.
Another recent themeless movie is the extremely disappointing Kung Fu Panda 4. I cannot adequately express how let down I was by this theatrical turd. You ever think you're reaching for the last delicious piece of beef jerky, only discover that it's actually this desiccant pack? That experience would get you about halfway to how Poe's latest misadventure made me feel. Whitney, what is this movie trying to explore?
Nothing.
100% correct. You know, part of the reason this one was such a huge disappointment was that the first 2 Kung Fu Panda movies nailed it on theme. They dealt with contentment, Inner and external validation, self-identity and acceptance, hard work to chase your dreams. They crushed these ideas and delivered nuanced looks at them through the various characters and especially the villains. I liked the third. It rounded out the series and, continued those ideas, but it was clearly the weakest entry. Or it was the weakest entry! Enter Kung Fu Cash Grab, which, it saddens me to say, did indeed grab quite a bit of cash. This movie has no soul and no ideas worth talking about. It's filled with plot contrivances, amateur jokes, and a distinct lack of cohesive theme. Oh, you can clearly tell they were trying to explore the idea of change. But it's like they read a basic description of what made the first two movies incredible and then treated it like a formula they could plug values into.
The data was so clear.
Our theme is change, so the villain should be, chameleon, because they change. Get it? And we have to talk about life changes, so we need Poe to be doing something other than being the Dragon Warrior. Like, it doesn't need to be important. Just have Shifu tell him that he has to, or whatever. Just as long as stuff is changing. I think that gets our point across. They did achieve something with this one. The theme, such as it is, simultaneously feels barely there and tacked on as an afterthought, and also like a neon sign flashing in every other scene. If you've ever forgotten to add salt and spices to a dish during the cook, allowing them to bloom, and then you thought you could simply toss them all in at the end, you will have tasted what this movie felt like to watch.
Papa no like, no kiss from Papa.
This movie is saying nothing. Like the others on this list, it is simply a series of plot devices and info dumps to pass the time. There is zero depth here, no forethought whatsoever. This is one of the laziest sequels I have ever seen, and I saw Frozen 2. Let's backpedal to those villains for a second. Tai Lung and Lord Shen, these guys are chef's kiss villains because they perfectly mirror each movie's main theme in a negative way. When a movie really nails the whole theme mission, they pull the villain into it. Puss in Boots 2, modern day classic, go see it if you haven't. It's almost a perfect movie, if that can be said to exist. It uses 3 antagonists to deftly deliver its thematic exploration of gratitude and self-image. Do not make the mistake of thinking that this is merely a kids movie. I am not joking or exaggerating when I tell you it will make you laugh, cry, and question your life choices in the light of your own mortality. It is a masterpiece. That is not hyperbole. The villain is such an oft underutilized tool in delivering themes, but it can be done so well, especially to give subtle contrast to how a good character trait is really only a couple steps away from a bad one, depending on usage. This is why the "we are not so different" line is used so often. We call it a trope, but when done right, it's a great way to see how a few choices can make a hero into a villain. Dark Knight did this very well, especially with Heath Ledger's Joker. There is a tremendous amount of overlap in the two characters' methods, mindset, and public perception. You can find a plethora of essays and discussions about Batman's vigilante morality and whether he's actually a good guy or not. It's what makes him such a compelling character, and his battle with the Joker especially so complex.
You complete me. You're garbage who kills for money.
Don't talk like one of them. You're not.
Speaking of villains and themes, the Marvels had neither. This movie is a dead horse that deserves to be beaten so that hopefully future writers glue their stories together more cohesively. I don't want to dally on this one too long, but the lack of themes or characterization here is stunning. This paltry picture is pure plot, plowing past poignant principles, punting premises, plunging personality, and plundering previously prized properties to produce pauperized profits. Then, its proponents purported to paint the public as the provocateurs? Pitiful. The sad part is when you can see the potential, and this one had 2 big points. One, your idols are never what you want. In one scene, it looks like Ms. Marvel is going to be disappointed because Captain Marvel looks like she's giving up on some of the Skrulls. Nope, it's all good. No problem. We could have also dealt with the idea of guilt and what Captain Marvel did while under mind control and then to escape the Supreme Intelligence. How does she reconcile her mistakes and unintended consequences? She simply reignited the sun. No problem. There is no struggle. There is no theme. This movie is barren. What makes this one especially bad is that it represents the writing downfall of a franchise that was killing it in terms of themes, storytelling, and characterization. Look back at some of the major icons of the MCU's foundation. Iron Man is a fan favorite, partly because he's suave and cool and snarky, but also because his character is a well-written look into a common human question. What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not good enough to run my dad's company? What if selling weapons makes me not good enough? What if I'm not good enough to save every single person ever? Will signing this multinational accord make me good enough? Iron Man is a fascinating character because the MCU was able to keep exploring this same question for years in multiple ways as the character kept evolving, and it's a question many of us wrestle with as well. Captain America is another years-long attempt to answer one question. What does it mean to be a hero? Will being a soldier make me a hero? Does having muscles make me a hero? Does raising money for the war make me a hero? Is it heroic to sign those aforementioned accords or to fight against them? Are good intentions heroic? Do you even have to fight to be a hero? Perhaps being a hero just means being a good spouse? Steve's journey revolves around wanting to be good, but we discover through his eyes that defining that attribute is extremely difficult. The Hulk, it's a pretty obvious metaphor for man's duality and struggle against self, but that doesn't make it any less poignant. These characters mean something. They stand for something. They are seeking answers. They are exploring themes. That is why they are excellent. And that is what's missing from the modern characters. I was going to say that modern ones represent the politics of the moment, but they even fail at that. What the new MCU represents is the desire of their production team to look like they are attempting to represent the politics of the moment. But that's exactly the problem. Modern writers are cynical and have grown up in the postmodern way, where truth does not exist, and themes are only important when you can subvert them so you can appear clever. The modern writing set, indeed most of Hollywood, does not believe in truth as an objective fact. Everything is relative. They have no moral framework with which to approach life, and it results in a sad blend of nihilism and postmodernism that is anathema to real writing. How can you explore a concept like heroism if in your heart you don't believe that any one ethic can be superior to another? In order to write compelling stories about life, you have to have lived, and you have to believe in something, and most of the folks in Hollywood today have neither. Their reality is a hyper-reality, and it doesn't resonate with most of the audience, thus the general apathy that we are seeing. So what's a light in this darkness for you? What's a movie in the last 10 years that you think displays excellent writing and themes? Spread the love in the comments. And if you'd like to know more about how postmodernism and hyper-reality are screwing up the movie industry, well, you can check out this essay right here. And I'll see you next time.